Good afternoon. I'm Wolf, the other side of the Starlight Starbright franchise. My first video, other than one I think I did when I was out in the desert 2 or 3 months ago, I'm going to finally try to show you what I plan on doing in the next, who knows, weeks, months. Depends how fast I learn. And I'll get to that in just a minute. I am trying 2 video sources. The one right here, where I'm looking at you through your mirror. Careful, it could crack. And over here on my phone. I'm going to see how well I can edit these together. And I haven't done any editing since, well, I think I was in college when I took video production, TV production. That was one of my interests 38 years ago. Long time ago. Rather than go into that field, when I decided to go into the armed forces for a little while, the U.S. Air Force, which I am a veteran, I ended up not getting that job, and I accepted instead one for air traffic control and radar operations and this kind of sort of stuff. That was 46 years ago. How time flies. So before I get to what I have here on the floor, I just want to put a shout out. Today is whom I knew her by, my Aunt Money's, Moneys, birthday. I'm not quite sure what her age would be today, but I think it would be around 95 or 96. And she passed about 15 years ago. Now what's ironic about her birthday is my mother's birthday was exactly 1 week ago, on the 13th. And I put a little shout out on Facebook for her, as I usually do each year. And then ironically, a week from today will be my birthday. Not that I'm going to be jumping up or down or shouting or anything. I don't even know if I can even buy any candles that would represent my age, but that's okay. Anyway, back to Aunt Money. Her real name was Mildred Boone. But she, as I was told the story, she got the name Money because her sister, Doris, could not pronounce Mildred when she was younger. And so somehow Money stuck with Mildred Boone, or my aunt, whom I stayed with for many, many times through my childhood with my grandmother. Now what is so special about Aunt Money is, especially through, I'm guessing from age 8 up through about 14, 15, which I was actually on my own then, having left my parents' house at a little over 14 years old, moved in with my grandmother and my aunt for probably about 3 or 4 weeks. And given that I already had a job from the previous summer, which was called Chicken Delight Pizza Man in Covina, California, within a few months I was able to get my own apartment. I had a couple other jobs. One was with an Italian restaurant called Tony's Italian Restaurant, Tony and Wendy. Taught me a lot how to make such foods from scratch. And I also worked for what was called Sambo's. Many of you may remember that restaurant chain that I believe it went broke I'm not sure if it was bankruptcy or if it was management. I know they had a controversial issue with their character, and that's, of course, obviously 50 plus years ago. But anyway, I'm off the story here. Aunt Money would, when I was staying with her and my grandmother, she would keep me up till like 2 or 3 in the morning. I shouldn't say keep me up, that may sound a little more direct. I would stay up, because that was just our lifestyle. We would watch the news, lots of news. And one of their favorite newscasters was George Pumpman, Channel 5, KTLA, still on the air. George isn't there. He's passed on years ago, I do believe. But KTLA is still out there, broadcasting out of Los Angeles. I think it's a Fox station now, I'm not quite sure, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, then we would watch Johnny Carson. And after that, we would watch I believe it was the Late Show or the Good Morning Show, I forget now, with Tom Snyder. And that would take us into 2 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, my aunt tutored me English, math, vocabulary, grammar, and just almost a continuous end of light, heart loving lessons. And while of course I did go to school and everything, but she was my mentor for teaching me so much stuff and enhancing my education. Overall, my moral good side. Yeah, I have a bad side too. I'll try to keep that under the rug here. Anyway, so I won't go too much more into that, but this is just a shout out to my Aunt Money for all the years that she stood by my side and taught me just life and experiences. So from my heart to yours, Aunt Money, that you're resting in peace in Covina, California. Very good. Okay. What we're going to do now is this channel, Wolfstar Productions, it's actually a company name, Wolfstar Productions 2024. And we're going to hope, and when I say we, my wife and I, Starlight 70. You can find her channel. I'll put a link in the description below when we get working with this video here later. She's actually next door, I believe, doing some of her own videos. She does songs, writes music. Very talented, beautiful lady. I love her with all my heart. Anyway, this channel and Wolfstar Productions, we have announced probably a couple months ago, it was before we got our house, and the house was, the purchase of the house was delayed nearly 6 weeks. We were waiting for clearances and inspections and everything. And we've been in the house now for about 7 weeks. 6.5, 7 weeks. Absolutely love it. My wife found this house in March. And the one thing that she had her eye on, that walk-in closet. I want that house. I gotta have it in that closet. So, of course, today that closet is full of all our clothes that were packed in our RV and in bags, you name it. As one may know, if you've lived in an RV, as we did, we had a 38-foot, well, we have, sitting outside in front of me. But we lived in the 38-foot Dutchman Atlas for 2.5 years. And overall we did okay. Anyway, so we were absolutely loving our house. And so what was I doing? Oh yes, I keep getting off on sidetracks. This is non-scripted. Not scripted? We are going to present soon some cooking projects in our nice kitchen. Will be under the heading of Wolfstar Cafe, and I promise you we are working on it. We're kind of waiting for just a couple more things to come in, some cookware and stuff, and some cookware that I'm told I still have to find. So I have to go on a hunt for that again. Or it might come out of my allowance if I have to buy it again. Well, we'll see, right? Anyway, Wolfstar Cafe was a name that Star and I conjured up in 2012 when we were setting up our marriage celebration. Now the short story of that is, now I met Star in January of 2012 while I was still living in California and working for the state. Star lived in Canada, citizen, born and raised in Canada, and we knew from the start. Now I met her online in an app called Facebook, or not Facebook, Yearbook. We knew from the start that it was an instant attraction. We fell in love, and we're still in love with each other this day, 15 years later. We had planned on, we talked about in January of that year, that we would meet someday in person, and that time came when she was invited by her employer to go to New Mexico to the National Powwow in Albuquerque. She invited me to fly from California to meet her, and so we did. We met actually in Denver, where we were changing planes, and then we would fly to Albuquerque for a week. During that week, we never did get to the powwow, but we got to some other places. Even tried to get to Roswell to see my relatives, but we got there too late at night, and everybody was sleeping, I guess. Anyway, the irony of the end of that week, that was in April of 2012. On the 28th of that month, we held our native celebration. An area chosen up in the Circle of Enchantment, the Highway Enchantments. They might have a different name. Pardon me if you are watching this from New Mexico and I'm butchering that. Shouldn't be doing that, I guess. But up north of Taos, you can go up and follow a road that, well, basically goes in a circle, goes to Red River, goes to Eagle's Nest, and I believe Angels Camp is the next town before you just come back down into the valley. Anyway, at Eagle's Nest is where we held our native celebration, actually up in the mountains behind that. There are some pictures on our Facebook site that shows that. And then 2 years later, when I finally was able to get back up to Canada, and with her sponsorship, I was able to stay. And on June of 2014, we got married. We call Paper Day. And that basically, of course, is so the government would recognize our marriage and with the licensing and all that good stuff. And then the celebration that I was mentioning a few minutes ago was on August 23rd of the same year. Obviously, that's coming up in just a couple days. That is where we held the traditional marriage activities, I guess you call it. Star wore the most gorgeous wedding dress that she had handmade from overseas. Her father walked her up the aisle in front of our guests, and I don't want to say not so much gave her away, okay, because he's still very much in our lives. But he gave her hand to me, and then hey, well, we'll try this again. Uh-oh. Okay, well, I guess I'm over here on the phone. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. I was looking to see, did the phone stop recording? Over here on the webcam, where I was looking at y'all in the mirror, it says I ran out of disk space. I should have put it on the external drive. Anyway, we'll move on here. So we had a celebration on August 23rd, where myself and my two sons, Richard and Andy, who had come up to visit. My son Richard was my best man. Andy was the photographer. They both helped me the night before the wedding to prepare for the reception. We did all the cooking. And we had a special chicken finger that we made from scratch with 2 or 3 different kinds of breading and seasoning. So we made about 12 trays of those. We made a macaroni and potato salads, like 4 or 5 gallons of that. And I'm not sure if we had other things we may have. I'd have to go. Anyway, that's where the Wolf Star Cafe came in. Was that we served these meals at our reception the following day, which we my sons and I, we got done preparing everything and lifting it out of the oven 2 hours before I was supposed to be walking down the aisle. So I'm getting phone calls and stuff like, where are you? And so, we're rushing out to get this food taken to the reception site, which is about 5-6 miles away. And I had to run back and get batteries at a local store, and run back. I think I had to run back and get coffee. So now I'm looking at about 40 minutes. And so I just basically dropped the food off at the kitchen, and those that were helping us were, well, obviously many were guests. They kind of like, what do you want us to do with this? And I'm like, well, plate it. Please help us serve it. Anyway, so I was able to get to the aisle on time with about 9 minutes to spare. And of course, as I said, we held our traditional wedding and our vows, songs. Our daughters sung for us. And then, of course, all our family and friends joined us in the reception afterwards with gifts. And I think we did a little more singing This Star and I tried to sing. She sings beautiful, not I. No, anyway, so a very special day many years ago. So, Wolf Star Cafe. Look for it coming on the channel soon with some of our favorite recipes, including the ones that we had at our wedding 15 years ago. 12 years ago. And some other favorite dishes that we enjoy. And then some that all of you in the audience can offer suggestions, and we'll see what we can do and stuff. Okay, anyway, thank you for that. The next part of the venture of Wolf Star Productions is I am setting up a publishing capability, I guess is the term. It's called Alaskan Wolf Publishing. And I have over here on the side, which I don't think I need to show you, but we have a nice laser printer over here, color laser printer, that we'll be using for part of that production. And I do have a black and white one over there as well. And then I believe on the floor down here is a book binder, electric of some sort. Going to be new to me, but we're going to try our hand at doing this self-publishing as I did 12, 13 years ago. I didn't actually put the book together. It was put together by Amazon, everything. But I'll show you here, because I am a writer. I can usually look at something. I might be walking or riding down the street. I might see a newspaper article, hard to say. And I just come up with writing the story. As in the case of this one, this is part one. Now this was done by a professional book company and stuff. And, well, I might read it one day if I figure out how to get all that put on the screen. But this was one that I wrote in one night, and it just came to me out from here to the fingers. And Star did review this on her channel, but it's called Shipwrecked, and my pen name Alaskan Wolf. And I have my own way of, my own style of writing, but I start out with usually an introduction, and then try to give the reader, what it's about. And as we go through pages, I try to put pictures in. Now these pictures are all done by the AI program I use, and I'll just flip through these. And of course, as the story progresses, I will generate pictures to try to tell a little bit about what the story is about and stuff. Anyway, this was part one. Well, at the time, I didn't know there was going to be a part two. Ended up that few days later, 2 days later, I wrote part two. I do have that on the computer. I just have to go edit it and get it ready to go out either to this company or try it myself here soon. I can't count how many stories that I've written, and most of them are being shared on what's called Alaskan Wolf Publications on a Facebook group site. So if you're interested, feel free to go over there and check them out. There's no cost to read them or download them. The other part of my writing is often I enjoy writing fan fiction, and specifically for a program that was on the air in the 1960s. It was called Lost in Space. Now this is the original, 1965 through 1968. I was 8 years old when the show aired. And to this day, and there's a lot of sites out there, a lot of Facebook groups that many still share the love for this series. And of course, there have been a couple movies, or at least one movie. And then there was the Lost in Space series from Netflix. I call it LIS 2018. And while each has their merits, I'm still hooked on the original. Anyway, so I've written over 100 fan fiction stories based on this program. Some have a cross-reference with other programs that were produced by Irwin Allen. He was the creator of Lost in Space. I'll get the name here in a moment. The Time Tunnel. And the Submarine One, my gosh. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. And there's a couple other ones there. Anyway, fantastic person. And so I've crossed some stories with these other programs, as well as I've taken some other programs. I have a cross story with Hogan's Heroes. I have one with, if you remember, the Thunderbirds. There was a show out of the UK back in the 60s, 65 or so. International Rescue, some of you may remember that. Well, I have a cross story for that. And anyway, the list goes on. The side that I published, I've only published a couple books, but the one that I have published back in 2012, it took 34 years to write. There's a whole other story about that. But it's called The Vows and the Guns. Again, if you want to go read that, please do. Okay, so now we're going to get on with, what should we say, the meat and potatoes and everything. I don't remember how long have I been on here? Not quite 30 minutes. Okay. I mentioned at the beginning of this video about my Aunt Money and my grandmother, that I would always go down and visit. And when I say down, I was born and raised in the Mojave Desert, the upper desert, in Apple Valley, California. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with that, when does it need to be, I guess? But it was home to Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. And some of you may recall that couple. Anyway, my grandmother, my aunt, we used to also watch many TV shows, and one of those was the Grand Ole Opry that was on Saturdays. So my grandmother, well, part of my aunt, they thought that the future for the young Fred, I was probably about 9 years old, was to be a guitar player and a country western performer. So they bought me a guitar. I have a picture of that someplace. I'm not sure if I can find it before I get this video up. Anyway, long story short, I played that for probably about 2.5 years. And what's special about that, when I mentioned Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, my stepfather worked for Roy Rogers when he owned a couple properties in Apple Valley. And I say worked for him, but he worked at the establishment of which Roy Rogers owned. But Roy Rogers paid for my initial guitar lessons. And so I find that kind of special. However, after a couple of years, I didn't stay with it. I got into photography. I absolutely love the darkroom. had my own dark room when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And thought that was going to be a career. Then I thought video production, TV production was my interest. In all, what came back down to the whole thing was, of course I learned how to cook when I was about 9 years old for reasons I won't particularly put here. Try to keep this a happy video. But of course I cooked through all my teen years until I decided that I was done. Went into the military, into the U.S. Air Force, as I spoke of. Spent some years there. My career field was dissolved just a little bit after the 1980s. So I tried to get into a couple other fields, and I don't really remember. I know I wasn't picked up for reenlistment. Not that I was a bad boy, just something that it wasn't an opening for me. But I did. I was discharged under honorable conditions, or under honorable. So, like I said, I was a good boy. Anyway, what did I do when I got out of the service in the fall of 1981? I went to school, back to school, and went to seek a degree in food service, restaurant management, cooking, in an actual restaurant back then. So I was taught for the 2.5 years I was in the community college by a master chef. And that was my career for nearly 27 years. So quite a while. And I've had some other careers in there before I officially retired 2012, 2015, finally 2021, permanently done. So I'm sitting home now with my beautiful wife Star, enjoying our beautiful house. But okay, let's get back to what this video is supposed to be about. As you can see, I can random and can't talk either. I can random, rattle, and roll. That didn't sound right, did it? Okay, so back to the Grand Ole Opera and country and western music. Now I'm talking about the original country and western, and this is no judgment on what's out there today. There's absolutely wonderful country and western performers and stars. I just was raised with the older generation, 1950s and 60s, and a little bit of the 70s. So that's kind of where I am. But among one of my favorite instruments, of course I'm packing a box as I talk here, was the steel guitar. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard them, and usually you see them, someone is sitting behind one that's probably about that long, might have one or two sections of strings, 10 strings, 12 strings. I know they come in different varieties. Excuse me. Some have pedals, some don't. Well, I absolutely would love to have one of those, but they're anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000. And I decided, even though we had the money at the time, before we bought the house, I decided to hold off to see whether or not I might be able to learn one of these things. So I bought a lap steel guitar, and I'm going to show that to you now. And over the next however long, I'm going to see whether or not I can remember and whether I can learn how to play this thing. Because I am not, that I know of, musically inclined. but it's going to be fun to try. So we are going to pull this puppy out. My goodness. Now, you can see that. There's the name there. Let's see, I believe it's an R-O-G-U-E. Regu? I could be butchering that. But I got this off eBay for $89, 95 with shipping. You see it in a beautiful case. Everything, I was very pleased with it. So we're going to open up and see what is in here. Okay, I believe there is a zipper here. Now I have not taken this out of the case until today. So it will have a stand or legs. So obviously I can put it on such, have it sitting in front of me, or you can play it on your lap. Well, we'll see if I can play it. And so I'm not going to take the legs out right now. I'll probably set it up in a subsequent video. Everything. And let's see here. What do we have? Okay, so in this package, we have, of course, I have an amplifier that I bought separately. So, of course, it has to hook up that. And here are the little finger, let's see, where am I at here? Little finger things that one puts on to obviously strum the strings, play the strings. And of course the very famous, which I believe you hold like this, the bar, you get the different sounds, different pitches and all that. Now, of course, that's will remain to be seen how I can do that. Okay, so now we're going to open this thing up. Whoop. There we go. I think it's got, I was sure that it had another zipper here. So I'm looking here to see if it has another zipper, but apparently it doesn't. Anyway, we'll just take it out here. So this is a much smaller instrument, but we'll try to get as much as we can in here. But so this is my toy that we'll do some videos on, and we'll see what I can do with it in the near future. So I will set this up in another video. I do have to watch some videos on, how to play it, how to tune it. I do have, oh yes, okay, so in terms of that, now in the old days, 1970s, many years ago, of course we had to learn how to tune the guitar by ear, and I wasn't real good at that. But I do have in here, there's has some picks that came with it. I didn't look enough. I did buy some more picks. I lost those, misplaced them. Star found them for me, and then ended up getting another set, and another set. So I got picks running out of my ears. Okay, anyway, so in terms of tuning, I got this little device on Airmon. Either way, let's see, where's the camera here? This thing right there. Try to get the camera there. This is a tuner that we put on the edge of the guitar, and when you strum the string or play the string, then when you get it to the correct note and correct pitch, this thing will tell you that you're good to go. Is it cheating? Maybe, but technology is what it is. But until I can get back in and hear these strings, the sound of them, and see whether or not this brain of mine can pick up the music notes, that's another thing. Is reading music. Never did learn. Well, a little bit, I guess. But I learned everything just by listening to it back in the late 60s, well, early 60s, mid 60s, 67, 68. I think that's when I played first. As I said, so steel guitar here soon. And all the goodies that are falling out on the floor. Just kind of put it back in my little, used to be a little dog food container. Okay, so with that, I of course had to buy an amplifier. So I bought this one off Amazon. It's a little small. It's called a Galeri instrument, and I found them because my wife, Star, she bought a electronic piano from the same company, which of course we have out in the living room. And one day soon, she is going to absolutely floor you with her musical ability. Now, she played piano, as I understand, when she was a child. Probably a lot more, I don't know if something that she wanted to do or if she was forced to. That's kind of how my parents were looking at me and the guitar. Was like, you can't go and play today, you gotta practice that guitar. You can't go hang out with your friends, you gotta work on the guitar. Well, I was a very free-spirited child. I hardly have had any rules other than I had to be home by sunset. Otherwise, the Mojave Desert was my playground. But that's all another story. Okay, so back to this pen. So we have this wonderful little amplifier. Put it up there. And in another video, we will hook all that up and we'll see what kind of sounds we can get out of that steel guitar. So I think I would just set this right over here. Obviously it has all the nice little what to do and how to work it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for me for this first video. I am going to pull these into the editor and we'll try my skills over there. So I thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you very soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.